Chapter 91. Your Excellency, this is a court. This is the court, the Judge General warned him when he was about to scream. The Duke managed to shut his mouth with a rough squeak. I could understand the feeling. The youngest daughter, who had been strangled by the Crown Prince, suddenly confessed to having a mutual feeling. I'd be crazy too. Hua, the Crown Prince and the Princess. The repercussions of my one word were great. The quiet room of the meeting quickly became noisy. In it, I encountered another blue eye hardened by shock. Derek was staring at me with his fist clenched. You're about to run out and grab me by the collar. The top of his head began to blink dangerously. His spine was swollen by the tremendous momentum that spread from him. It was actually dangerous. If it fell further from 22%, it was a time when I was continuously spilling over his head. Quiet, everybody, calm down. Tang, tang. Instead, the judge struck the bong, coming down the tumultuous hall. Princess Eckhart, go on with your statement. But not long ago, I told you this to His Highness. I nodded and used out of body speaking again. It's as if I'm talking about someone else. I'm sure some of you at the eve saw me arguing with him at the banquet for that, and I guess I saw it on the eve of the hunt. He tilted his head as if he remembered what some had forgotten. Good thing I said loud then. What mattered was the huge scandal of the Crown Prince and Princess. I hurried back to the point. Shortly after the bear hunt, we encountered assassins who came to harm the Crown Prince. That's while being chased by the assassins, His Highness was injured in their attack and fell down the cliff together on the defensive. The aristocracy was all confused and shocked by the statement that was different from Viscount Gavoyle's own writing. I asked, looking back at my own work, which was going to be driven. I'm sure I've never shot a crossbow except a bear and an assassin, but I don't know what's wrong with anyone who fainted after being hit by my crossbow. Oh, you're lying. Well, I'm sure the princess was. Viscount Gavoyle stammered suspiciously. Marquis Ellen was quick to answer with a stiff face, but as the princess said, there's something weird about it. What? Your Highness is now in a coma of unknown cause. The palace doctor said the apparent injury was minor and there must be another reason. Yes, and? I asked back in a deep voice for a man as the person claimed to be a lover of the crown prince. If, as the princess claims, you were attacked by an assassin and you were injured, and you fell from a cliff, you should not be able to move until the search party finds you. Speechless, but then His Highness the Crown Prince and the Princess walked the next day near the entrance to the forest. Soon after the Crown Prince fell, it's like a Marcus Allen blurted the end of his words in a meaningful way. It's like you tried to lure him away and poison him on purposely. I had a rough idea of what to say when I didn't finish. The Marcus Allen seemed firmly convinced that there was no evidence of assassination. Actually, you're right. If the prince had not found an ancient magic map and had fallen, we would not have escaped the cave. At the time, al- at the time of suffocating silence in the hall, hey, Marquis Allen. The Duke suddenly threw up his anger by hitting the armrest of the chair. You're going too far just to keep your eyes on it. How dare you set me up? So my daughter was trying to undermine the crown prince. It's not necessarily but your daughter's own dogmatic behavior. You cheeky. You talk too much, sir. I'm just having a valid doubt. Marquis Allen's grumpy grin at the angry Duke and turned the protest back to me. Princess Eckert, tell me, why did His Highness lose consciousness? His Highness must have been poisoned. I replied with a blank face. He didn't know I'd answer so openly, so the Marquis Allen's face was completely different. Well, how can a princess be sure of that? It sounds like a princess used poison on him. We'll find out if we look into the evidence I took from the assassin. What? The Marquis, who had stuck to a relaxed attitude, jumped up from his seat at that moment. I can't believe there's been evidence. You mean the princess' statement that she was attacked by an assassin is true? The hall has exploded to the point where it is different from the previous one. A lie, it's all a lie. In the meantime, only the self-criticized Viscount Gavail tried to appease people senselessly. Your Honor, as evidence the dagger of the assassin who tried to harm the Crown Prince. It was the moment when I spoke out, taking out the dagger in my arms with my hands tied wide. It suddenly dawned on me. System, main quest. Let's be the queen of the hunting competition. Third, discovering assassins. Would you like to proceed with the quest? Compensation, male main characters favorability plus 7%, fame plus 70%. My eyes flashed when I read the system window. All MLs, male leads favorites are 7%. It was the most generous reward of all the fucking quests I've ever done. System, this is main quest and will be automatically accepted in 5 seconds. System, 5. I hit accept. In a row less than a second later. There was no reason not to accept the generous reward and the ease of the ordeal compared to the damn quest we've done so far. At the same time, the writing inside the square changed. System, second, defending the crown prince from assassination. Find the owner of the assassination of the assassin's badge. View. 1. Marquis Ellen. 2. Viscount Gavoil. 3. Baron Tollett. 4. Count Tellin. I was surprised at the sudden multiple choice. Of course, I thought number one would be the answer, because the patterns on the dagger matched those of the Marquis Ellen that I had scanned earlier. But this fucking game couldn't have gone so simple. Princess Eckert, continue what you were trying to say. The judge called me late. He looked rather tired. With the silence of the nobles who had been clamoring noisily until a moment ago, it didn't seem to make them feel strange. Make them feel strange that I stopped talking. I quickly recalled the dagger in my arms. One who wears a dagger bearing the pattern of the Marquis Ellen, and who is foolish enough to attach an ornamental gift made of silk thread to an assassination tool. In addition, the color of silk thread was light blue. It was not difficult to deduce the correct answer. Number three. I quickly pressed one of the choice. It was none other than Lady Callan fiancé, who persistently tried to stop the prince to the end. System, correct. Now reveal your power. As soon as the new writing came to mind, I opened my mouth. I submit as evidence the dagger of the assassin who stabbed His Highness Crown Prince. The window of the system brought out the dagger that had stopped while being taken out of the arms. How do you know it's the dagger of an assassin? The patterns of the Marquis Allen are carved on the bottom of the blade. What? I pushed the pattern straight forward so that it could be seen clearly by the high ranking aristocrats sitting on the head of the law department. Marquis Allen opened his mouth wide. In addition, if we trace the owner of the silk thread, we will know the entire force that led to the assassination. The handle of the dagger gently shook as I finished my statement. The blue silk ornament at the end shook with my beckoning. Well, it's a decoration that Lady Callan recently bragged about making. Oh my god. Countess Dorothea, who recognized the silk cord, was inadvertently speaking and hurriedly covered her mouth with her hands, but it was after I had already heard everything. It's a setup. It's a setup. Marquis Allen and Lady Callan almost simultaneously called out, flaming, as if they were playing a game of one voice. How can I know if a princess has stole it from Baron Toilet and has colleagues and took it away? I saw the princess hunting bear herself. End of chapter 91. At that moment, the door of the conference room burst open and someone walked quickly and sat in an empty seat next to the podium. I'm so sorry I'm late. One of the children who took over the recruits had a seizure. Had a seizure. Favorability 32%. Winter recited an apology for his late appearance with a puzzled look, and then he was a high ranking aristocrat too. I stared at him with a slightly puzzled look, not knowing if he was in his seat. The Marquis of Verdandi, what are you talking about? Before Winter was fully seated, Marquis Ellen asked breathlessly, Your Honor, may I state what I have witnessed? Instead of answering Marquis Ellen's question, Winter calmly raised his hand and asked for understanding of the Judge General. It's okay. When he was given permission, he rose again from his seat. 2 days before she went missing, I saw her valiant hunting alone against the brown bear in the gold-marked area. This is a setup. I've never seen the Marquis of Verdandi around. Oh ho, Viscount Gaboil. Bang bang, the Judge General hit the doctor's stick. Take it easy. No one else is making a statement. Then he shouted irritably to Viscount Gaboil, who kept opening his mouth. Continue, Marquis Verdandi. But the princess stopped shooting the crossbow in the middle as if she had run out of bolts. Speechless, as soon as I was about to come forward to help the princess out of fear that it would lead to a dangerous situation. The crown prince appeared and cut the bear's throat. He made a statement too consistent with my situation to be a lie. That's when really somewhere he was watching me. I was horrified by Winter's statement. As expected, was what I was thinking right. The fucking surprise guest quest wasn't the end of the brown bear. If the crown prince had not stepped up first, I would have inevitably met the Winter or Derek and Leonard. And until the male leads show up at the critical moment, I'd have to deal with the wild beast. It's a crazy game. While his spine was chilling and he shuddered in secret, Winter calmly finished his statement. I moved because it seemed like they were having a serious conversation. That's all I've seen. The meeting room was in shock again. So you're saying the statement of Viscount Gavoil are false? The prince's statement was true. Oh my god, Baron Tollett was an imperial assassin. I glanced sideways at the Eckhart as I looked around the rattling surroundings. The Duke's face was no different from the others. What was unexpected was Derek's face. When my eyes met, his face slowly twisted. Rather than surprising and shocking, it seemed to be closer to anger. Are you angry that your sister's words, which you didn't believe were true? Or that a secret meeting with the Crown Prince, which I said earlier? I didn't know. I didn't know you were angry because the words were true. The good news was that, unlike the horribly wrinkled face, the slowly blinking favorability remained unchanged. Look, without avoiding my eyes, I raised my head as if it were a sight. Without your help, I can handle it myself. Looking at him with cool eyes, bang, bang, I'll make a decision. The judge shouted majestically in the tumultuous crowd. There is a third witness who has nothing to do with this case, and the testimony is consistent with the statement of the princess, who was a suspect. Speechless. The evidence that the princess has is so obvious. Just before the verdict, the surrounding area became as calm as death. Instead of taking a breath for a while, the Judge General said, "Those who need to be investigated are not Princess Eckhart, but Baron Tollet, 7 aristocrats, including Viscount Garboil and Marquis Ellen. Your Honor, objection. Your Highness the Crown Prince is still unconscious. This is a grave event that could lead to attempted murder of the imperial family, so I command to detain all the nobles involved." Bang, bang, bang. The doctor's rod on the hands of the Judge General confirmed the ruling with three noises. It was the moment. System, main quest, let's be the queen of the game. Third, discovering assassins. Quest success, system, as a reward, all male leads favor plus 7%, and fame plus 70%, except plus 70, has been obtained. Fame total, 200. Okay, it's over. I clenched my fists and cheered. I have to send a message about this immediately to His Majesty. Sir Walter, please carry out the order immediately. The judge then called in the captain of the guard, who was sitting right next to the podium. Then the door of the meeting opened and rushed in. This is all a setup. A setup. When seeing the guards approaching to be entrenched, Marcus Allen shook his head like a fit. I'm not involved. To Toilet. He did it on his own. I have nothing to do with this. Well, I don't know anything. Why me? It was the same with Blue Hair. She looked around frantically with her arms bent backwards and violently overpowered. She's looking for someone who can help her, but Count Kellyn was not a powerful family enough to attend the nobility meeting. I'm guessing you somehow lined up with I'm guessing you somehow lined up the Marquis Allen and aimed for a lip. To do so, it is clear that she was trying to crush Princess Eckert, the center of power, and dominate the society. You thought I'd just be stupid like last year? I looked coolly at her, dragging into her ugly flame, and I thought, I'm the worst villain in the game. All those involved were taken away by the guards, and the conference room was slowly being cleared up. Some of the escaping aristocrats kept spilling me over whether they wanted to talk to me, but no one approached because I looked so fierce. Princess, may I have the proof? At that time, the solemn looking middle aged captain came to me in person and reached out his hand. Here you go. I handed over the knife that I was holding gently, packing it in his arms. He soon asked for something else. I'll release the package. Give me your hand, please. When he reached out, my hands tied to a thin rope, he said, "Excuse me," and put his hands on my wrists and muttered something that I couldn't understand briefly. Then the rope, which had been tied together with the two wrists, loosened and fell to the floor. The captain of the guards bowed to me and took it with him and left. What was it? Was it magic tool? Somehow I thought it was a sloppy tie it up. It could never be cut off or released without a starter. I was embarrassed when I thought I was VIP a while ago, perhaps because the tension was relaxed. A heavy fatigue struck the back of the neck. I needed a break. I just got kicked back to get out of the meeting in a hurry. Lady Penelope. Someone stood in front of me. Favorite, 39%. White letters glistened over the fine silver hair. I was pleased with the high level of favorability. The Marquis. Come to think of it, I should have thanked Winter for coming out of nowhere. Anyway, because he came forward and killed them, the ruling proceeded faster, unlike anyone who forced me to admit that I had shot a crossbow like a thunderbird. Thank you for your help. I bowed my head gently and thanked him. Thanks to you, I can clear myself of the blame quickly. I just did what I could. Vinto replied, quoting what I had said before. I'm also happy to repay you for helping me on the eve. A smile suddenly broke out whenever I met him. I felt like I was told that I had to return his favor. He was really a thorough merchant to the bone. You really do count every time. Speechless, with a sudden burst of laughter, the blue pupil slightly enlarged. He looked at me silently, a little embarrassed. I erased the smile that was on me. I said I wouldn't accept it, but I'd appreciate it this time. Speechless, I'll see you then. It was when I bowed again and tried to pass him by. So will you come back when you need help? He opened his mouth abruptly. The stomp, the foot has stopped. I haven't completely restored my trust to you. End of chapter 92. Chapter 93. I slowly looked back at him again. He was bringing up work at the top now. What is it? Is it a question? I only thought about creating a situation where I recognized him first, but I never thought he'd reveal his identity. Besides, I can't believe he's talking like this. I thought for a moment what to say. Winter was still neither an insurance nor an ex. I finally answered vaguely. I don't think anything will happen again. As expected, you knew. The answer came straight back as expected. I was right to ask. I tend to remember people's characteristics well. I smiled vaguely and glanced at him. Ah, it was an unexpected blow, and a faint groan leaked from it. It was an excuse for the way in which, in normal mode, female lead bought the favor of Winter at once. The setting that the Marquis and the Wizard are the same person only by eye color. However, after experiencing it in person, there was a possibility in the world of this game. Proud aristocrats who ignore merchants don't even remember the color of their eyes in masks. If you're worried about mouth care, you can erase the memory of the children. It's not like that. I said without regret that he had roughly guessed about this, who had been glancing at me. Winter shook his head strongly. Not like that. Blurred at the end of his speech, he suddenly stretched his hand toward me. Lady, you seem to be hurt every time I encounter you. A long, solid finger brushed against the neck. Ah, a stinging pain caused a groan to pop out unknowingly. Winter flinched at my brief groan and raised his hand. This time, instead, I raised my hand and touched the spot. I felt a chill in my hand. This is where Leonard applied the medicine because I had a scratch. I didn't feel any sensation at that time, but this time the burning pain rose. The same spot seemed to have been swept away without me knowing it. As he stroked the wound, Winter spoke in a solemn tone. Don't touch it, just in case. You can go to the clinic. Penelope. It was then someone called me. The head that was directed at Winter was reflected back. Favorability, 29%. Restored favorability as before the fall, thanks to the quest compensation. Derek was coming with a stiff face. The Duke must have gone first. Looking at the empty side of him, I thought it was a little surprising. Hello, little Duke of Eckhart. Winter greeted Derek with a slight nod of respectfully. Derek, who was trying to push the business straight to me, hesitated and reluctantly bowed his head to greet each other. Thank you for your testimony earlier. No, it was the right thing to do. I don't know what to s- I don't know what you want to talk to my sister, but I am afraid we have to get together as family for a long time. I see. Despite Derek's rather rude remarks, Winter simply backed away with a friendly smile. Lady, then maybe next time I'll tell you what I'll. No, you don't have to. It was none other than me who tried to break up the conversation with him that gently grabbed him by the wrist. Let's have a conversation, Marquis. Penelope Urquhart. Derek called my name in an icy voice. Favorability began to flicker slowly over the dark hair. What are you doing? Derek's face, when he found my hand holding Winter's wrist, turned negligible, leaving behind the subtle expression of Winter. I looked at Derek with cool eyes. I told you I had nothing more to talk about. There's a lot of eyes watching. Derek's jaws were inflamed. Leave that hand and follow me right away. The moment I heard the sound, the first thing that came to my mind was this. Why should I take that order? I really had nothing more to say to him. No harm has been done to the family, and what has been done has been completely solved. When did you distinguish between eyes you see and eyes you don't? I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Everyone sees me and know I'm a person just a short time after I got up from the hospital. Don't worry. You, as I sarcastically made fun of what he said was my defense. Blood veins rose in his neatly turned forehead. Winter was a pretty good shield, whether it bothers other people's attention. Derek didn't rush to drag me in. He managed to soften his anger with a big breath. Yes, I admit. What? There was a mistake in my opinion. Speechless, but look back on your behavior so far. Given your reputation and impudence so far, anyone will have no choice but to judge. So, ha! There was a burst of laughter. I was wondering what he had left to say. It was just an excuse and a fault about driving me as a patriot, without trusting me to the end, and not even thinking about checking with me whether it's true. Male lead, the rational, cold hearted man I admired when I played the game, was such a mean fellow. It's so easy for that little Duke. What? The false charge of the murder of noble families, the charge of driving them to the unwholesome Thunderbirds. Speechless. If you blame everything on me, it's easy to solve. Derek's eyes glared at my sarcasm. Favorability gauge began to blink dangerously. What you're saying to me, am I framed for my wrong behavior, or are you just telling me not to blame others? Penelope Eckert. Favorability, minus 2%. Favorability, 27%. The easy rise and easy fall of favorability impressed me no more. With this feeling of crawling on the floor, it seemed fine to fall down to 110% at a time. His face was horribly distorted. On the other hand, I grinned with a smile on my face. Don't worry. I know it's my fault. That's why I took care, of course. Was your own arrangement, after all. A disgrace to Eckhart's name. Confiscation with the crown prince. You had nothing to say. Then what should I have done? I really couldn't figure it out, so I shrugged. During a struggle with the bear that was met unexpectedly, the crown prince who was passing by accidentally cut off the bear's head and was chased together by an assassin. Speechless. Should I have said this? I recited exactly what I told Derek the night before. I'm just telling him the truth, but no one would have believed me if I had said this. That's how Marquis Ellen would have driven me. So would you feel better if I were an imperial assassin? Don't make a lip. He was barely holding back his anger, and Derek kept chewing on it over. The eyes that were shot at me began to show a wretched life. If I had told you there was evidence earlier, I could have solved it without a scandal that tarnished the reputation of the family, who made up such a ridiculous scandal. I clenched my teeth and answered back, "Did you give me a chance to say that I have evidence?" It was hard to control my facial expression. I knew I was barely lifting the corners of my mouth with a messed up face. I could feel the gaze of Winter from the side. Still, it couldn't stop. "You didn't hear anything. No slander, no solution, no hard truth. Penelope, you're the one who didn't hear it. Why? You're gonna blame me for this too? Maybe it's because I'm too heated. I couldn't even recall in front of others that I said to the brother, 'Little Duke, this is a clear slander. I have a solution. Actually, I don't you think I was self-defense for some reason? The crown prince who was passing by helped me cut the bear's throat while I was in trouble. Crown prince, lover, it was me who most wanted to avoid putting them in the mouth. But I racked my brains all night. But that was my limit. Maybe there was a better way. Had Derek's clear head and Erkart's name been borrowed, they could have kissed with a much better testimony. To do that, I had apparently decided to hand over the assassin's vouchers to Derek, but it was Derek who ignored them and finally made me take care of themselves. When you're done talking, I'd like to finish talking to the Marquis. You know, we've been talking about the testimony of the trial. There was a lack of dialogue. Derek stopped him and replied rather hastily, as if he was about to leave right now. As you know, the situation was very urgent and the information on our side was extremely limited. Speechless, they kept driving Eckhart behind the assassination of the imperial family, and the absurd myth that you trained the crossbow for assassination became a accompli. Derek fait accomplished. Derek continued with a look of frustration. I felt it was an extension of yesterday. To get you out of jail right away, I just thought it was best to get things done quickly. I don't know what you're trying to say, but I'm fine, little Duke. I answered immediately in a determined tone, because I didn't expect even a word of it anyway. At that moment, Derek's face crumpled horribly. The reason was unknown. Rather than anger on his always expressionless face, there was an indescribable feeling. Penelope. He called me in a tight voice, and favorability 32%. Blinking favorability swelled. I looked at it a little surprised, but I quickly shook off the interest I had for a while and soon I was greeted with a short silent salute. Come on, Marquis. Derek stood tall, stiff as a stone statue, as I walked past with his hand in his hand. He never held me back. End of chapter 93. Chapter 94. After I left the trial room, I gave up my hand and apologized to Winter only when I reached a quiet place where there were no people. I'm sorry, Marquis. Excuse me. I apologized to him for being caught between me and Derek. Winter looks at me without saying a word. He took something out of his arms. Then he reached out to me and said something unexpectedly. Don't cry. Yes? I tilted my head at an unknown sound and raised my hand to feel my face. Far from getting wet, I only touched my skin that had been strained from sleep for a few days. Of course, I'm not crying at all. What are you talking about? I told you that the sadness from the sweet eyes is in return for me. Speechless. Your eyes are always filled with sadness rather than laughter. Winter's words reminded me of my first meeting with him, which I had forgotten. The moment I heard it, I couldn't stand my face being distorted. It was actually a lie. I expected Derek, who came to prison, to listen to me and help me, even though I know it's in a fucking hard mode. It's a game that's different from reality. There may be dramatic changes, regardless of probability. Yes, I laughed weakly and made a pretty late reply. Will there ever be a day when I can smile at ease? Maybe. Not until I get out of this game after watching the ending. It was the moment when I just lifted my head, muttering self-help words. A cool wind blew from somewhere. The folded handkerchief, which was placed on the palm of the Winter's hand, floated up along the wind and opened out with a wah. On the palm of Winter's palm, 1,000 bars folded about, as if someone were playing a prank in the air. Flipping, crumpled, tied up, inflamed, it finally turned into a little rabbit shape. Oh, I stared at it blankly, with my eyes wide open. A rabbit made of a thin handkerchief fell slowly under the palm of Winter's. The little ears pricked as if greeting. It was a scene that didn't feel real even when I saw it with my eyes. Can you spread your hands? Suddenly, Winter said in a request. I slowly raised my hands with a puzzled look. Then the rabbit, which had been placed on the palm of Winter, jumped and landed gently on my palm. It was strange to see his face rubbing against the palm of his sheep's mouth, which is which is even look like a living creature. Then I suddenly became aware that Winter had used magic in the palace and in the form of a posthumous writer. But can you just do this? I glanced around with anxious eyes. It was a rare place, but it was just a matter of no one knows. I don't see anyone. What do you think? Winter answered my response with an unusual response. Anyway, it's all been revealed. Are you just go all out? It hasn't been long since you told me your secret. Isn't it too extreme? A change in attitude. I looked at him with doubtful eyes. This is the basic level, so I rarely use mana, so I won't get caught. Don't worry. Then added Winter with an awkward smile. As an excuse, more than that, do you hate animal? With his question, the rabbit jumped up down on my palm. Then he pulled up his belly and acted cute. It was nothing but a fabric made inanimate object, but the movement was like a baby rabbit that never lived. A smile was built because of the figure. I like it. You're smiling now. As I answered gently, Winter said, only then did I know why he showed me this. It was to comfort me. My heart was pounding. I looked away from the handkerchief rabbit rolling on my palm and made eye contact with him. And for the first time, I gave him a selfless, bright smile. Thank you, Marquis. At that moment, there was a wave in his pupils and favorability 44%. 5%. His favorability has gone up quite a bit. I slowly erased the smile on my face as I looked at the gauge bar above his dark silver hair. In normal mode, the sorcerer appears like a ghost whenever the female lead is sad or in a bad mood, showing off some extraordinary magic. In the midst of this, I'm not entirely enjoying this moment, but I'm thinking of taking him back as an insurance policy. I felt a little despondent. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. An enormous attempt to assassinate the crown prince took place, but the hunt continued. Only a few high ranking aristocrats who participated in the trial know the exact inside story. Furthermore, many other countries participated in the event. It's a hunting competition that went ahead with the attack on the eve of the festival. And if the problem breaks out and stops completely, the prestige of the Inca Empire would be ridiculous. Therefore, the hostless hunting contest continued until the winner is selected. It will be all the way forward. For safety, I tell you not to let anyone out of the hunting ground until I come back. Early in the morning, after the trial, the servant traveled to the campgrounds of each family and delivered the emperor's order. It was an order to keep all the nobles in the imperial palace until the emperor returned. Why me? I looked at the servant with a look of injustice and the scroll bearing the sentences of the imperial family, because I thought I could go home right away because I cleared myself of the false charge. However, I was relieved at the words that followed immediately. But Princess Eckhart has made a great contribution to supporting the Crown Prince. Speechless, he also added that, with due respect and consideration for being a lady, you may move to the palace, not to the hunting grounds if you wish. I'll move. I raised my hand and shouted as soon as the servant finished his words, Penelope. The Duke called me in a gloomy voice, looking back on his face of knowing nothing. He only hardened his dark face and did not dissuade him from doing anything more. No one has easily spoken to me since the trial. It was a pretty good job. Then I'll have a carriage ready. The servant bowed politely to a member of the Duke and returned. I've got to get ready to move. I'll go out first. I also jumped out of my seat as if I had waited, because I didn't want to remain in the breathtaking Duke's cabana. Hey, you're really... Leonard opened this to say a word because of the cold atmosphere. Leonard. The Duke stopped him. He he nodded with a deep sigh. Yes, try to do so. The palace is easier to rest than here. Yes, see you later. I left the cabana without hesitation after a brief bow. Three pairs of blue eyes stuck in the back of my head at the end felt really good. Like the spirit of escaping the Duke's cabana when I came out, I lost my strength. Whew. I'm sure the first day of the hunt wasn't this bad. I sighed and trudged toward my cabana. Maybe I'm venting my anger for nothing now. All the members of the Duke who suffered from the evils and accidents that Penelope had done without thinking understood. Moreover, this time he must have been very upset because I was involved in the assassination of the royal family. For the Duke and Derek, it might have been best to close the case by reducing it to the practical pranks of iron paper. But why should I even understand their situation? Understanding was understanding, and it was another problem that my mood was dirty. If they had asked the whole story first and put our heads together to come up with a solution. No, if Penelope had told them once that it couldn't have happened, the episode wouldn't have ended so badly. Hey, it was then. Someone called me out of nowhere, but I couldn't understand immediately after deep thought. Hey, hey, Penelope. It was not until I heard the sound of shouting my name that I stopped walking. Huh, I don't want to look back. There was only one person here who called me without a single case like that. I checked with only a glance at my head standing still. Favorability 37%. As expected, the fluttering pink hair was coming fast to me. End of chapter 94. Chapter 95. That's not true, right? Leonard, who came before me in a flash, suddenly threw a question to catch a floating cloud. What? That bastard crown prince and you. Leonard, I exclaimed in amazement at the rising voice of Leonard. You swore at the crown prince in the palace. He wasn't usually a big guy. Fortunately, early in the morning, we were the only two humans hanging around the Duke's campsite. Leonard, who had kept his mouth shut as if he had come to his senses, managed to say without giving, is it true that he and you were in that relationship? What relationship? I'm not in the mood to listen to your prank now. I asked, because I really didn't know, but Leonard was so serious and furious. Wherever I go at the hunting ground, people only talking about the crown prince and you. You know that? Speechless. What the hell did you say in the court? Tell me the truth. That's not true, right? Leonard kept his face on end, barely holding back what he wanted to what he wanted to shake me up right away. I answered the truth. Yes, that's not true. Wah. Feeling relieved, he sighed deeply and scratched his head and muttered irritably. Bitch, why would such a false rumor? If the rumor is that we had a secret meeting in the woods, that's true. What? But soon after my words, his hand, which was poking through his pink hair, stopped. He asked with a glistening eyes. You, what do you mean? As I said, we met in the woods alone. Then we were chased by assassins. I shrugged and answered vaguely. It was expected that someone would ask if it was true. You can tell the truth that it was made up to avoid the suspicion of Marquis Ellen, but the Duke did not want to do that to people. You say it clearly. Leonard clenched his teeth and pressed me in a dreary voice. You were stabbed the other day by that bastard, and you were shivering. But fuck, secret meeting. What a stub. I frowned at his vulgar words. I met him secretly because I had something to talk to him. What do you had to say? There's such a thing. You don't have to know. I didn't have anything to tell you because we didn't have much to talk about. Put the bullshit away and tell the truth. What do you mean that you had mutual feelings? Have all those things spread already? He said he was a nobleman who valued honor, and he was like a human with cheap mouth. I threw my tongue at the rumor that had been spread in the evening. Then I opened my mouth with a deep sigh. It's just made up to back up the encounter. Shameless of my determination not to explain in a long way, I immediately threw out the truth. I couldn't help but grumble. I couldn't help but crumble until the answer was no, and I didn't want to be associated mutual of lovers anymore with the crown prince. As soon as my words were finished, he inquired, then why did you meet him? Are you crazy to get stabbed again? Leonard, I looked around again and dissuaded him. Try to be quiet. I didn't want to have this kind of war of attrition since morning. Therefore, a rather tired voice popped out, and you wouldn't believe it anyway if I told you that I ran into him. I'm different from brother. What? If you said you hadn't shot the nobles, I would have believed you soon. I recounted the following words of Leonard once more. Because you different from brother, you would have believed me. It was unbelievable to me. A twisting smile burst out. Don't lie. You believed me? No, you'd have come forward as much as Derek and insulted me. When the two sons of the Duke were beaten, they only drove me to the extremity. Me, do you think I don't have eyes for anything? In my eyes, Leonard stopped being angry and panicked, and he was just rumbling. No matter how stupid you are, you wouldn't have gone mad as soon as the ban was lifted. Speechless. Also, you didn't want to come to the hunting contest because you didn't want anything to happen again. I looked back at Leonard with fresh eyes. To be exact, I was reluctant to meet with all the male leads. I didn't even think he was showing off at all, but it was a little surprising that this guy, not anyone else, was exactly figuring out my condition. So tell me the truth. You didn't really do that, did you, huh? Whether he noticed that I was concentrating on his words, Leonard asked again with a subdued voice. Do you know? Would it help me to put the rumor to rest? Yes, it's not a secret meeting. I told the truth when I saw him trying to persuade me. It was a difficult atmosphere to put the doubt to rest by the glib words that I ran into the crown prince, who was passing by. So I thought that was the only excuse. That's it. Oh, you idiot. Would you like to say that anyway? What is it that drives a person like that? As soon as I finished speaking, Leonard slapped his chest and complained of frustration. That's right. There was a man who did not believe in such a thing, so I couldn't bring it up quickly. I tried hard to swallow a bitter smile. Yes, you can't do that with him. In the meantime, Leonard mumbled to himself several times with a much relieved look. I asked unevenly, did you just call me only to check this out? Only? Do you know how serious this matter, you little bitch? Leonard shouted with a grimace. I was dumbfounded. It's a serious matter, but does that mean it's a serious one for you too? If the Crown Prince comes to his senses within a short period of time, I will be the one who dies trying to fix it. And that's not why I called you. As if to sense my eyes filled with discontent, Leonard searched roughly. Come on, take this. He blurted something out and handed it over. A small wide barrel. It was something I saw the other day. What are you doing? Not take it. As soon as I looked down, he waved wildly. I took the medicine he gave me in a daze. The wound's bigger than it was on the eve, you idiot. You don't even know if it hurts because it's dull, right? He kicked his tongue and said rude things. Yesterday, Winter noticed it at a glance. The wound must have gotten bigger. I felt awkward and stroked around the neck. Is it really bad? Don't touch it. It's getting worse. He frowned and restrained, so he lowered his hand immediately. Damn. Don't forget to apply it carefully while you're at the palace. Don't just stand there because it's annoying. And when you have time, you'll stop by the clinic, okay? Well, meet again if only a few days. We'll meet again in only a few days. It sounded like a greeting to someone far away, so I laughed. I'll do that. Thank you for caring, Leonard, I said with a gentle nod and hesitated for a moment and added, believing me, my brother is the only one who said that. I was just telling the truth as it was, but suddenly Leonard's face turned red. Why would you say that? He flew into a rage and then passed me without saying hello. Oh, come on. When do you speak with your body? Favorability 40%. I poked my lips as I looked at my pink hair disappearing rapidly towards the side of my cabana. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. There was nothing particularly uncomfortable during my stay in the Imperial Palace. Aside from Emily, the court's users were extremely attentive. The table was broken at every meal, so the food was served. The most important thing was that no matter what I did, there were no restrictions wherever I went. I think there's a lot more to it than a duke. While I was visiting the library for the third day, I suddenly thought so. There was no one near the library, so it was very quiet and silent. Besides, the huge library was full of the kinds of books I would like. Thanks to I was able to read a lot of books about ancient wizards and Valta myths. With a tight embrace of the books I borrowed about Archina Islands, I moved diligently. How long has I walked along the road that I has become quite used to? As the guards gently passed through the enclosed entrance, I see a man coming out of the building with a lawmaker. Princess, are you here again today? When the prince's aide saw me just entering, he pretended to be glad to know me. When I was greeted with my head raised, I immediately asked the main point, how is His Highness today? His Highness' breathing is very stable. I think there's a road ahead. That's good. It was good news. In fact, I was heartbroken 2 nights ago when I heard that the Crown Prince was at a critical juncture. But it's not detoxification, so we'll have to wait and see. Yes? Would you like to see him in? The prince's aide asked stealthily, looking at the answer in a dull manner. I don't know how the rumors came out, but every time I came to the crown prince's palace, the eyes that looked at me were strange. I'll be out in 10 minutes. I didn't express myself and said what I want as always. Of course, the aide opened the way with a vague smile. Contrary to rumors that I have a secret meeting with the crown prince, I was going to leave in 10 minutes today. End of chapter 95.